The Lion King timeline has been a subject of much discussion amongst fans of the franchise, but there has usually been an agreement upon the timeline and the canon. It goes The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, and The Lion Guard. Although The Lion Guard kind of takes place throughout the second movie, but we'll just leave it at that. And then the Lion King 2019 remake came along and was largely lumped with the first 1994 film, since it is a remake and practically shot for shot, line for line, like its 2D animated counterpart. But what about 1.5 and the Timon and Pumbaa show? Well, the show is largely considered not canon because of the insane adventures Timon and Pumbaa go on. Plus, Scar does make an appearance which contradicts his obvious death in the first movie. As for 1.5, although some do categorize it as canon because it was released as a Disney movie, the multiple fourth wall breaks, crazy explanations for how things happened in the original film, and frankly common sense tell us that this isn't canon to the main Lion King timeline. But okay, if you really do want to consider it canon, slap it in right after the original Lion King. It is called 1.5 anyways. Okay, but now we have Mufasa the Lion King. Now this is supposed to be a prequel to the original Lion King. Sounds good, we'll just put it before the first Lion King movies. But hold on, not so fast. Although there are articles saying, oh, here's how to watch the Lion King movies in order, and put them in this list, if you do end up watching them this way, you would notice some inconsistencies. Inconsistencies that I can't just ignore. So, Hakuna Matata everybody, I'm Tate, and today I will be discussing where Mufasa actually fits in on the timeline. And well, it gets complicated. I mean, it already got complicated with the Lion Guard splitting up where the show takes place. It goes Cub Kiara scenes in Simba's Pride, then Lion Guard seasons 1 and 2 and the first episode of season 3, then the rest of Simba's Pride and most of the Lion Guard season 3 take place during the same time. Then finally, in the last episode of the Lion Guard, we see the outsider lions have joined the Pride Lands Pride, therefore, that episode takes place directly after Simba's Pride, making the Lion Guard still the latest piece of media on the Lion King franchise, but maybe not for long. So yeah, it's messy already, and it gets even more messy if we look into the Timon and Pumbaa shenanigans, which aren't even canon, so we won't. Sorry 1.5 fans. But what is considered canon? What even is this strange word? Well, if you're part of the Lion King community, you've probably heard it thrown around a bit. Well, canon refers to the officially recognized storylines, characters, and events that are considered part of the main continuity. Now, Disney has never officially released any certain Lion King timeline, so we can consider basically anything as canon. But this also means that it has to follow the rules of the base film, hence why Timon and Pumbaa and their spin-off movie and show are not on here, because they contradict what happened in the 1994 film. Some would argue that they're just telling a story and we, the audience, are just immersed in it. But then where do we put Timon and Pumbaa telling a story into the timeline? Trust me, it's better to just leave them out. Kind of like how it would have been better if they just had been left out of the Mufasa movie. Hey, okay, I'll stop. Okay, but that's gotta be it. One movie and one show is plenty of conflicting pieces of media. In fact, it's quite a lot for what is already a small lineup of movies and shows for this franchise. But nope. Is it really that hard for you to draw within your own lines, Disney? Alright, back up. What am I talking about? Well, if you've watched The Lion Guard, or at least watched my recap of the show, you would know the backstory of Taka, aka Scar. Oh, and what else covers that subject? Mufasa. But surely they just retold the story and elaborated on it a bit more. Nope, they went in a completely different direction. But it isn't just this part of the story that opposes the Lion Guard's version of young Taka and Mufasa. It seems there's several other inconsistencies, and that's what I want to focus on today. Mufasa's compelling story and how it completely disregarded the other animated shows and movies, making the Lion King timeline a complete mess. Although not specifically mentioned, in the original 1994 Lion King film, it's gathered that Simba, Mufasa, and their lion ancestors have been rulers of Pride Rock and the Pride Lands for a while. Mufasa makes a point to drill into Simba that the great kings of the past are looking over him. However, the whole premise of the Mufasa film is to get to where they need to go. Malele, which is the Pride Lands. So according to Mufasa the film, they haven't been living at the Pride Lands that long. And from what we see at the beginning of Mufasa, neither Mufasa's father nor his father before him were kings. Maybe in the animated movies they weren't referring to Pride Land or ancestral specific kings, but I'm not buying it. And you know what was left out of the CGI live action film? Mufasa and Taka being blood brothers. In the 1994 film, when Mufasa meets with Scar about missing the ceremony, he mentions how he got the shallow end of the gene pool in terms of strength. But in the 2019 CGI version, he simply says his brother will always rule.
When it comes to brute strength, I'm afraid I'm at the shallow end of the gene pool.
But when it comes to brute strength, I'm afraid my big brother will always rule.
Just some cracks, nothing definitive. But we're not done. Oh no, friends. We have something that absolutely definitely breaks the canon, which we described earlier as storylines, characters, and events that are part of the same continuity. And that is Scar's origin story. In The Lion Guard Season 2, we're given an explanation for how Scar got his scar. According to this version of events, Taka, which was Scar's original name, meets this shady character known as the Strange Lion. This lion lures Taka into a vulnerable place. During this encounter, the Strange Lion summons a venomous snake to strike Taka, which leaves him with that signature scar and drives him into madness. Later, when Taka shows Mufasa's injury, does his big brother show concern? Nope. Instead, Mufasa brushes it off and calls him Scar. Yeah, not exactly the most comforting big brother moment. Now, looking at Mufasa the Lion King, things play out very differently. In this version, Taka gets his scar during a fight between Mufasa and Kiros. Taka steps in, gets swiped by Kiros, and boom, scar. No snake bite, no poison, no mysterious strange lion, but instead of venom leading to his mental decline. In this movie, Taka's story here is one of regret. After the fight, feeling overwhelmed with guilt and shame, Taka asks Mufasa to nickname him Scar as a painful reminder of his mistake and betrayal. So now we've got two completely different stories here. One where Taka's descent into Scar is fueled by manipulation and madness, and one where it's about guilt and self-punishment. Same end result, basically the same base movie, but wildly different paths to get there. Why is this? And what does this mean? Well, put simply, The Lion King is now different from The Lion King. Okay, I guess that's kind of confusing. Or in other words, the 2019 film is in fact different from the 1994 film. This is because the two canons do not work with each other. You put them in the same timeline, and there's like this earth-shattering vortex, I don't know, things happen. Because the Mufasa film follows into the 2019 film perfectly, right up to its animation style. But it contradicts the 1994 2D animated film and its successors, because Simba's Pride and the Lion Guard support each other and play off of the 1994 film perfectly. Kind of. That yellow guy complicates things, but for the sake of simplicity in this already complicated video, we'll just say that's Kiara, or an older brother that dies. Gee, that sounds similar to a certain book series. But anywho, I'm sure I could find even more if I went through each film and each frame with the fine-tooth comb. But I won't. I'll leave that for the comments. But how were they split? Assuming they were connected at one point. And they do kind of connect again with the base original Lion King movie. This is disregarding the animation styles, by the way. Well, that's completely up to your imagination. We do, after all, only know as far back as Mufasa's childhood in one timeline, and teen to young adult Taka in the other. So it would probably start at least a generation back with Mufasa's father. Maybe he made a decision that split the timeline, but that's if you want to go all MCU on the LKCU. And for that, I'll leave my thoughts for a morning report. By the way, sorry there's only 2 episodes, I'm working on it. But all of this doesn't matter because these are only stories told by other people about the pre-Lion King past. And so, many people have said that Spirit Scar was lying about how he got his scar. Therefore, they can be in the same timeline. One big, happy, still kind of messy family. But it just doesn't really make sense why he would lie to his own minions about his origin story. It would make sense if he was trying to make Kain sympathize with him, but he's telling it to his minions who already have given him their undying loyalty. Not to mention Rafiki all but proves that Taka got his scar by a venomous snake, which is why he's crazy. So why would Rafiki contradict what he tells Kiara and Mufasa and Kion in the Lion Guard? Well, and then you could say Rafiki was lying, but why would he do that? Everything he says seems to check out, and he's been proven to be a reliable mentor figure. A little kooky, but there's no reason to believe he's completely lost his bananas. And last but not least, the roar of the elders. Where is that mentioned in Mufasa? It isn't, because there is no roar of the elders. Case closed. But I dare you to come up with the reason why the Lion Guard and Mufasa don't contradict themselves. And while I'm waiting for you to type your response, now's the perfect time to tell you about something I launched. Have an extra $1 a month that's been burning a hole in your pocket? Well, have I got the perfect use for that. I just launched memberships starting at $1 a month. With the base tier, you get a cool badge next to your name, and you'll get your name featured at the end of each video. There's also higher tiers if you want early access to videos or a verbal shout out at the end of my morning report episodes. This is a great way to support the channel at not too much extra. I mean, $1 is literally the cheapest I can make it, but don't feel obligated to do so because you're supporting me just by watching this video. Man, speaking of, this one's about to end, but don't worry, YouTube thinks you'll like the video that just popped up on screen. I guess I'll see you there.